different kind of source. So I hear where CEOs coming from, especially in terms of like technology and things of that sort. You know,
And I was talking about Gen Xers, just to be clear, not baby
I
boomers.
understand, but I'm also speaking about like folks just older versus younger, where as just like a general matter, like and even when it comes to Gen X, they understand what these stories are because their parents and their grandparents were telling them these stories, and they're the byproduct of their struggle. All right. Final point. I don't want to dismiss a few things. One, we have a concerted attack by this administration, state legislatures, state governors in red states to eliminate Black history in our schools. So any possibility of folks understanding what our history is constantly being attacked right now. What in South Carolina when they got rid of I'm looking at this matter right now. South Carolina where they were doing the AP African American Studies program. There's a lawsuit filed. I'm gonna say who filed it, but basically it's public record. But there was a lawsuit filed, and the court dismissed it. But this is like important stuff here, where like kids can't get access to Black history. And then the final point, which is a question for the gentleman who will speak after that, 27 years old. You know, so something was mentioned about like, okay, we're willing to die for what we believe in. Question and a point. Um, I'm not really clear about what the younger generation believes in. When my former professor who died a few years ago, he actually was around when Malcolm and Martin were alive and actually worked with them directly. He would say that like even though everybody wasn't an activist, everybody knew what time it was. Everybody knew what direction we were trying to go in. All right. I don't know what the younger generation believes in to even fight for. And then finally, we have to get out of this mindset so I would be curious about what y'all believe in that you're willing to die for. And then secondly, the point here is we have to get out of this mindset that like your commitment to a particular political struggle is your willingness to die for it. If anything, you should be willing to live for something, live for a better future, live for a better tomorrow, rather than die for it. So I'm just be curious about what this younger generation actually believes in that they're going to either live or die for.
Well, I'll say this, and my whole thing
I
is
think Fuji wanted to speak. He has been waiting.
okay.
Appreciate you.
I mean,
I'd like to get in line too.
at this point, y'all gotta realize that y'all talking to a generation or person who's like historically literate. Like, it's not that they don't have access to information; it's what they just choose to engage with. They know exactly what they're saying and it's wrong. They know exactly what they're saying is stupid. I'm pretty sure the judge has read both sides of the arguments. He actually took, if he's faced at the age of 27, he had over 12 years of public school system education. They had history classes. So y'all people are arguing with people who just they want they are living in a world they made an alternate universe. They made an alternate version of history. You can't convince these people. And I mean, I would hope for this young man to get. I'm 33 years old. I'm not that much older than some of you. But the idea of kind of understanding or understanding like Black history is pretty much moot because they choose not to willfully engage with it. They choose to, well, it's better if you all be ready to die for it. They look at it. They look for this one great man. They look for the next VP Newton. That's the only thing they want. Is like they want we need another you. We need another Mark. We need another Malcolm. They don't actually realize like it takes infrastructure and people to actually help them along the way to get to that point of having UP New York Mark. You know what I'm saying? It takes masses to do that. It's not people willing to die. But nobody is willing to die for anything. No soldier goes to war wanting to kill. People want to go to war to go win. Like they're not even talking about winning. It's just a failure idea. Like no, when enough of us die, it'll galvanize the masses into believing that, and that shit just historically is not true. So when we engage these kids, these young folks who talk about things being tough on what they're the byproducts of whatever, they don't even realize how catered and how careful their world is. Even the kids who grew up in the hood, grew up in the aftermath of the war, around the war, they don't realize like for the most part, you grew up in a world that's like they got rid of pretty much all the real dope dealers, all the real dope dealers, all the real cartels. They pushed the niggas aside. Yeah, they killed them, they put them in jail. There's no more super duper kingpins walking around the hood no more. These just penny ante drug dealers. These are the remnants. Ain't no more OGs left. They all got life sentences. They all supermax. So when we talk to these kids, they don't even know the world they live in. They live in a post-apocalyptic scenario pretty much with drug dealers. They don't understand that like that era is shifted for them. So when they discuss these things about crime and dependency on things and we need to get off this and get on that, they don't sound like they don't live in the world. They have never really seen that world. They don't remember when it was. They don't remember the ghetto gunfight of the '90s. They don't remember the ghetto gunfights of the '80s between police and drug dealers. They don't know that. They live in a very plush world. So like until they understand that, until they realize, wait a minute, maybe my world's a little bit nicer because nobody has a Uzi out walking around the street. I know there's nobody like the crack epidemic isn't that real for me. Like you don't see full time high rise school drug dealers no more. They don't have a right to talk on these issues no more.
Well, I'll say this, and and I think that I think there's an over emphasis on like the '60s and like that era because the world that people are in and are growing up in now is just different from that world. Yes, there was a time, and I noticed my dad grew up in that era. He grew up under segregation and stuff in Alabama back in the '60s and marched in the civil rights movement. But the thing is, we don't live in that era anymore. Like these young kids now, it's their biggest concern is not a Klansman. Like their biggest concern is like MS-13, fucking with them while they're trying to play basketball in the park going towards the east. So they gotta leave the park at a certain time in the evening because then MS-13 gonna show up. Like what I mean. So that's the world that we live in now. And I think that here's the thing: like Malcolm and Martin and people like that, Stokely Carmichael, the Panthers, they were all legends, and they fought for what they believed in their time, but they are no longer relevant in the time that we're in now. So we need to retire them. We should respect them, but we need to retire them and put them to rest and deal with this what we got going on now. And no, we're not all gonna think the same way. We're not all gonna vote the same way, or I think that we galvanized that time period because we look at it as like this monolithic time period. We were all somehow moving in the same direction and moving. But there was a lot of people who disagreed back then. There were a lot of people who criticized Martin Luther King, criticized the moves that he made that and stuff like that. So it wasn't really all like that.
You don't think
But I just
you don't think Martin had anything to say about gang violence and politicized gangs? Like what? I think like
MS-13 is not.
organizing gang members like freaking the Vice Lord, and they were marching with them and getting folks in line. Like you don't think he had anything to say about gang violence, for example?
Well, I am confused about this though. Gen Xers are the ones who raised the generation we're talking about, so they got their mindset from Gen Xers. So it didn't happen by osmosis.
That's not true.
Why isn't that? How is that not true, Justin?
Because they're way more influences than just their parents. Even us, we don't get our mindset straight from our parents. A lot of us think way different than our parents. And these kids have hella other influences: video games, social media, computers, massive propaganda. Like, so this is not.
Just, I can prove it. Hold on, please let me say something. Just, I can prove it. Gen Z is the most trusting generation of their parents in history. There's surveys on this. They have a higher trust rate of their parents than millennials, Gen Xers, or baby boomers did. So we're the most trusting of their parents in history.
I don't see how that correlates to them being like that.
Can I say something real
Like
quick?
his parents.
Can I say something?
Of course, Doctor, you know.
Yeah, just real quick. I think CEO is partially right, and this is one of the things I said. The Gen X is the sort of post-soul kind of generation, and Gen X parents raise their kids with an attitude. A lot of Gen X parents raise their kids with an attitude that they were going to provide for their kids what they didn't have, and that became an indulgence in excess. They didn't want their kids to want for anything. because as Gen Xers, we grew up with parents who were children of the Depression, who were children of segregation, and they had a very, um, I would say, kind of limited. They had very restrictive ideas, right? And so Gen Xers kind of grew up with without a lot of attentiveness, I would say. And these parents are overly attentive and they indulge their kids. So CEO is a little bit right on that. But the thing I wanted to say to the other person that was speaking is even in your comment, your perception of the history is is it's awkward because it's more than Martin Luther King. And what's different about the kids now is that as kids or as 20 somethings, they are not engaged in the real politics of their environments. When those people, like the civil rights movement, yeah, we think about Martin Luther King, but those things were done by college students. It was college students that were doing those sit-ins. It was college students that were marching with King. When we think about that, we think of all the older people, but there were young people that were doing those things. And even as a Gen Xer, we had a political consciousnness. We may not, all of us didn't live in drug-infested environments, but we knew that this was the reality of, this was a social reality that we had to be aware of and that we had to be consciously committed to not being involved in or doing what we could as when we became adults to make sure that that didn't persist. So I think it's a different kind of social conditioning. And the lack of understanding and the lack of knowledge of history is the problem. These young people are living very curated lives. I put that in the chat. Curated by their parents, curated by the internet. And so their perspectives are very narrow. And it's all about
projection alert of the day. Projection alert of the day.
And that's not the way it has been in previous generations. And I think that is a particular problem, especially for us as Black people, because we are living in the civil rights movement right now, right this moment. We're living in it, and they have no awareness of that.
Those are great points, Dr. AG. Hard to build upon that. I wanted to just add, there's a structural component to this as well that I think cannot be ignored. That really comes from the time of Gen X, particularly deindustrialization, the attack on teachers and workers, deunionization. These are spaces where folks are becoming politicized, along with what I believe is the increase in higher education as you begin to see more Black folks enter higher education. During the 1950s and 1960s, we know that going to colleges and universities didn't cost nearly as much, not even close to what it costs now. But you begin to see the increase of higher education over time as more Black people get enrolled, and when you begin to see Black studies and ethnic studies and Chicano studies, among other things, come into academia. And I think that's deliberate to make going to college something that's so highly coveted and something that you should pursue to ensure that your family, specifically your family, is good. I mean, Dr. AG made a great point, which builds on CEO's point, that, it very much was like, hey, listen, we need to make sure that you had the things that I didn't have. And I think to a certain degree that, and not the analysis, but that approach is a very kind of individualized approach when it comes to raising children, as opposed to kind of understanding a kind of collective obligation. Obviously, this isn't true for all Gen X folks, but I do believe that there, as you began to see the emergence of neoliberalism, what you also saw was an individualization of what it meant to be a black person in this country. I mean, Manny Marable wrote how capitalism was underdeveloped in Black America, of course, drawing from Walter Rodney's How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And I think his analysis is right in that regard, at least culturally, that you begin to see a departure. Well, I think Jesse Jackson said we need to move from civil rights to civil rights. So I do think Gen X has a certain kind of role to play in where we are, but I think it has a lot to do very much with a departure from, or rather a transformation, let me put it that way, a transformation of what the movement was, which was to fight for rights, which then became to fight for, opportunities, in corporate America, opportunities with white collar jobs, especially when you began to see blue collar jobs de-union, when you began to see the start of CEOs making vast amounts of wealth compared to their working counterparts. So I do think that there's a structural analysis as well. The attack on teachers, we still continue to see that. The refusal to even have folks be exposed on the primary, intermediate, and secondary level to Black history, among other kinds of more marginalized histories. So I don't lay the blame squarely on young people. There's certainly a role to play there, but like this shit is structural and it's deliberate. And the young people that we're seeing now, they're really becoming kind of like the collateral damage in some ways as a result of what we've been seeing so far.
And Black Freedom, just a quick kind of thought question for you. So you mentioned earlier how hip hop artists were different in the 90s, and of course I agree with you. However, if they had internet and social media then the same way we have it today, how much closer would they have been to what we see today?
I mean, it's tough. I think, for me, it's kind of like a ground up thing. I think I think the conversations would be different. So, for example, motherfuckers hated Reagan. But also there was this, I think, larger global push to end South African apartheid in the late 80s, early 90s, especially among the Black community. There was culturally an emphasis on like doing Black things, whether you're talking about movies, film, television, music, all that stuff. Like it was just, I said, yeah, I repeated myself, my bad, but you get the point. Ultimately, like I think there was a kind of like, also obviously Afrocentrism, but I think culturally things were different. There was still kind of collective consciousness that we aren't seeing as much today, even when we saw that in the 80s and the 90s.
And those are some great points. If you don't mind me adding to it, can I ask Just, if you're still there? I don't know if it's Justin or Just, but I have a question for you. Being 27 years old and doing what you're doing, trying to free think, trying to find the right things to think about. I find that from people I grew up with, because I grew up in Las Vegas, I grew up 28th Street gangs. I was around gangs, lived in a brick apartment because there were a lot of drive-bys, and a lot of bullets can go through bricks. And then I moved to the country, and I live in the country now. And my question to you is, I've seen in my life where economic disparity, has crippled all people, colors,
Yeah, maybe while he deals with that, I'll just jump in. Oh, are you back? Okay. I'm thinking about the legacy of the No Child Left Behind policy that Bush implemented in 2002 and then was replaced by the 60s and 20s. So that would have been the entire time that people in this age group were in school. And the way it really focused on and so things like teaching to the test and how that kind of narrowed the curriculum, because I believe those tests were focused mainly on reading and math, among other things.
And if I could just put together defunding schools.
Right.
Defunding's what we need.
Exactly.
What's coming?
Yeah, so there was less teaching in topics like, social studies and history.
How is there less teaching if there's less money?
And then
Maybe it's not all about the
Like
teaching.
the long-term effect being that non-tested subjects were de-emphasized or cut entirely. And that's particularly in so-called like underperforming schools, right? In like low-income districts. So we know who that is. Um, so yeah, I just wonder if all of this might have to do with, younger folks not having the same like education that maybe some of us older folks had in terms of like the history and stuff like that.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, that's great too. Let me get this question on, and I'm gonna get off here. Thank you guys for broadening my understanding of what goes on out there in the world.
Thanks for teaching me something today, even though you didn't teach me nothing.
How, or have you been taught, or maybe you're teaching yourself, or maybe you come alongside a mentor, but how are you, as a young man, because I'm 22 years your senior, as a young man,
Junior, you're the junior, not the senior.
I'm curious how the young people look at this, because I work with some young people, and this is their thoughts a little bit.
Oh, maybe he ain't the junior.
Like me personally, or like you want me to speak for you people from my age?
I'm talking to you personally. How are you economically? What are you doing to better yourself economically in your life right now, in your situation?
So right now, me personally, I'm just paying from something that I don't want to speak on right now. But so I'm starting a nonprofit organization. I'm starting there and starting with my book that I'm writing as well. And from there,
Party was him.
I'm having negotiations with other people, and we're going to be planning on part of the nonprofit. We're going to be partnering with this
I reported
this program. I can't really think right now. I'm going to go, but where they're going to be like be able to get people housing, like affordable housing, and building it from the ground up, and things like that. Type of humanity of America or something like that. Anyway, so
Habitat for
doing stuff like that. Yeah, Habitat for Humanity, partner with them and incorporating the nonprofit organization for at-risk youth. We gonna be like allowing them to get some education, get some hands-on training with just building the house from the ground up for a lot of the boys and girls. And from there, taking a lot of the money and investing it back into the organization, and then taking whatever accumulates from there. We gave ourselves a 10-year span to like grow, build, or accumulate income and money to set aside for further investments, and not even just for ourselves, as far as like real estate and things like that. But put money aside to really like bless people, so they can go back into their story and incorporate God and how God moved in my life and moved in their life. Because we want to like get like start people off with a fighting chance of owning property. Like if I could just put myself in position and leveraging the people that's around me, because I got some real good people around me, and we can get properties to just bless people with, like, say if a kid goes a certain amount of days without getting expelled from school, like a kid that's usually bad, like I want to turn like get like a incentivize them, give them something to really look forward to, so they can be like, okay, I can't own the house, and it's something that I could either build a phone and sell it, or keep doing it and get it to real estate, or it's something that I can have as equity, something I can pass down to my kids, things like that. So that's really, as far as I'm looking at it, following my purpose, and the income, residual, everything's gonna come from there as long as I follow my purpose and do what God put on my heart by telling my story. Because I am one of those YNs that y'all call, but I learned a lot, and I came from out of that. I still got some of the ways, I got some of the attitude still on me. And I still got a lot of work to do on myself. But yeah, that's how I'm looking at it.
No, that's awesome. I love hearing how young people, their minds work differently, and that's exact. You're seeing so much more stuff on the internet as a different generation, so you're exposed to so much more than what I was exposed to. So my thought process when I was your age, a little younger, was just mainly self-self. So it's awesome seeing you wanting to help and give back to the community. But you hit it on the head that there's no bigger testimony. I believe in Lord Jesus too, man. He's my Savior. I try to be guided by the Holy Spirit. There's no more guide than Him. When I try to do it myself, it's a big mess, So I know He died for my sins the third day. That's what I believe. When I let Him lead, it's so much much better than when I tried to do it myself. There's no bigger testimony out there than you doing it, and also
Here's another thing I got
putting
you.
into yourself knowledge, money, understand how things are going on, economic, and if people can see you do it, and then you're like them because that's what they're gonna want to do. So I would definitely encourage you to look into, as far as life insurance, IUL, something that pays you back, if you take loans off, you can get those houses. You start putting money in. I think if I'm not mistaken, you got to put in 2 or 3 years, and then you're able to take some equity out of that IUL, and you can start going and get you a house and then pay the IUL back. That's how you become your own bank. You get rid of that system. Then you start getting compound interest on your IUL. You can do so many things. You, as a younger person, have so many opportunities to make a change in your life and people around you that I didn't. And maybe there's some people that are older than me in here that probably didn't have the same thing either. I'm learning younger. As we're sitting here right now talking, you guys are talking, I'm trading stocks in the stock market. I'm showing you all the way down. What's that?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was on mute. I'm not working. Hold on.
Don't take those chances anymore.
Anyway, just encourage you, man, keep doing it. I want to thank you guys for this conversation that we had here. So I appreciate you.
I'm a firm believer in holding.
Oh, start filming.
I don't believe you can have them type of aspirations when you're literally supporting something that's inadvertent.
Gotten away with that being injured in
open trying
attack.
to get rid of
Take
you
those
and make sure that shit
chances
you're talking about
anymore. Start
is
filming and
possible. Like I
protection.
don't want to be a baby downer dog. I'm just gonna keep on with you, nigga. You make no sense. Like
I understand.
everything
I
you're
completely understand.
like no, I'm talking about something for just dog. You're asking to create this better world, but you're supporting policies of a person who actively is open to you. I want this shit to burn down. Dog, make fucking sense, bro.
Can I just add a quick sentence to what Fuji is saying? Everything that you and Ryan have been talking about is based on a legal regulatory framework and this idea of rules that are applied fairly and can be counted upon to apply in the same way going forward into the future. So if we got rid of all of that, then all of these plans disappear. You realize that?
You're about to chain the boat up.
So you're saying that the fair market that we have now, if we get rid of the fair market,
The Harvard
plans
is
disappear. I would
falling
agree
down
with you
stuff
100%.
I need to go get the vacuum.
The problem, I think the problem with like what he was saying is like if you ask for no rules, but then you want to make rules. You want to make the world fair for people. Then you believe, but you also believe the world needs to be cooler first before it gets fair for people. It doesn't really add up. Like you're telling people to survive. Nobody survives hard times. That's just the reality of hard times. Nobody survives motherfuckers. Anytime people don't survive genocide. Genocides for the most part throughout human history are quite successful. Anytime there's a collapse of a government happens, people die in droves. There's no world where like this country ended, but the world got better. It takes 100 years for that to kind of restart. That's like the dark ages happened. That's why the blank period happened.
I'll probably take the motor and put it in my
These things
backyard,
occur
even
like
though I don't want it.
Europe
It will be
post World War
such a
II.
mess up.
There's an entire missing generation of Europeans. 2 or 3 missing generation of Europeans, and the world has never really recovered from that as far as white people birth rates. That's why we're on such a hyper decline right now. They're literally missing white people. So when we take into account like the idea of let's make the world better, you have to realize that people who are making the world better are usually going to be on the left, not people on the right. People who are conservative are not interested in the shit Justice talk about in no capacity. They don't believe poor people deserve food, housing, or a chance to better opportunities.
You're kind of categorizing everybody, putting everybody in a box.
I'm not categorizing when somebody openly states and makes a 925-page fucking manifesto of how they're gonna make the world worse. That's not categorizing somebody. When over 70 million people vote for that shit, that is not me saying I'm categorizing people. When people actively go to rallies, support people saying we're gonna make it, we're gonna turn it up a notch. This guy here who just died, he's the reason. We're gonna use this injury for him dying to make the world a much worse place for people who we don't agree with. I'm not categorizing people. I didn't even categorize you. I'm just saying if you believe in the ideology of that guy, you support this guy, you don't believe make the world a better place. Fuck out of here with that. Let's make this shit cut and dry. Draw a line in the sand. You cannot agree with this man's policy and agree and think this man is a good president. Then sit back and say you want to make the world a better fucking place for everybody. He actively says, I don't want to help nobody.
Has been cut.
So you're sitting there saying is what Justice just said, what he said that he wants to do to help people is a complete lie. Because he likes what Trump is doing as far as tearing down the government. Start
Put into value.
Yes, you
Yes,
can.
the voting slump has been cut. Put into value.
Can I just say too, I think one of the biggest differences
Priorities.
folks traditionally on the right and folks traditionally on the left, or at least based on the policies that they've did and what they run on, is the left or the Democrats have historically championed regulation. Like, we need industries to be held to certain standards. We need them to follow certain rules. You know, for example, the Democrats with the I'm sorry, I don't know the exact name, but the Bureau of Consumer Protection, the Consumer Protection Bureau, I believe, with Elizabeth Warren. And, you know, in the wake of the housing crisis in 08, we need rules, we need to regulate. We can't let these people run amok. Capitalism's all well and good, but it has to be reined in by regulation. And then on the right, the argument is all this regulation, all this red tape, this is just hindering innovation. We need no rules. We need a free market. Adam Smith, invisible hand, let the market do what it do, and it's going to work out great for everybody. But what we've actually seen is people on the right who are backed by the billionaires, they don't want regulation because then it's easier for them to make up anything and do anything and cheat or whatever and not have anyone looking over their shoulder telling them you have to be fair here, you can't do this there. So then there's no ceiling on the amount of money that they could make. Whereas when you have rules and regulations on the left or the Democrats, there is somewhat of a ceiling. There are some rules, there are some guideposts, there are some fences, so that all everyday people can participate in that system, right? I can participate in the stock market or whatever. I can buy a house. And I know that there's going to be certain rules that protect me because I don't have the influence of a billionaire. I don't have the unlimited resources. So I need the federal government to step in and give me some protection from the wild, wild west, right, of the market.
Sure, I would say that, you know, a lot of people have problems, but I don't have a problem with billionaires that need billionaires because a lot of people think that they just stack their money up like you know, Doug Scrooge over there in the corner of a vault in their basement, and that's how it gains interest. That's not how it works. Innovation is huge. I think that they put the money back out there because they know if they put those billions of dollars back out there, it's going to return even more money to them than it would just sit in a bank account getting 4% interest. That's how millionaires and people in business think, and that's how their life thinks. So I think personally, as Just doing what he's doing is a very good thing. I think he wants to help his community, on top of not just helping his community, but get alongside people that mentor him that have done the things that he's looking forward to doing. And that to me is a huge thing. I never had that growing up, and it wasn't until I learned older. So starting out his age, I think he's going to be well past where I'm at now in my life. He's going to be well past that just because he's setting himself up in a position to succeed.
But he's so
That sounds really nice.
yeah. Let me just jump in real quick for you. Yeah, but y'all don't have like all of this like ideology and roses and strawberries. That sounds great, but that's not the world we live in. That's not what's going on. So he can have all of that, or I don't even know how you got that. This just said he supports a man who is actively against people that look like him. So I don't understand, what positive, like y'all gotta, I mean, y'all just talked about being soldiers but don't want to stand on nothing. I don't get it. I'm just lost.
This is what I'm saying. Alright. First I want to say, just understand.
Can I ask him a question real quick, Just? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Let me ask him a question real quick. Coach, I don't know you, man. You sound like you're an educated cat. I ain't gonna lie about it. You sound like you know what's going on. Can I ask you a question? Do you work for somebody, or are you like self-employed, got your own thing going on?
I have both.
Okay, cool. So you're working for somebody. If your boss come up,
I have both.
okay, cool. You got both, man. I ain't mad at you. Do your thing. Let's say the boss that you're working for, even though you are a boss, but the boss that you're working for, if he come to you and told you right to your face, point blank, I don't know what you get paid, and I try to go there and all that, but I'm just saying, he come and told you right to your face, I don't like the way you look. I don't like the way you think. I'm not even looking. I don't look like you. I don't know if you're black or white, but let's say he's opposite. I don't like the way you look.
but I can look at your work ethic, and I cannot deny that you work hard, and I like that. So I'm gonna give you a 10, 15, 30, $100,000 raise a year on top of extra vacation and extra benefits. Would you accept that from him, or would you quit that job just because he didn't like the way he looked?
So now we're taking handouts.
But that's not
That's not, I asked a simple question, man. That's
Can I just respond briefly?
I mean, I don't really understand how that, but
Because
yeah, I would.
wait.
But that doesn't really make sense.
And then you guys can have it. So culture, you said you would take it, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I don't care if you know, don't like me or nothing, the way I look, but I'll take that money because you respect my work ethic.
Yes, I would take it and then I would go to HR.
Good, fair enough. That's just a simple question I was asking.
But how does that correlate?
Because I know some
What we
people,
talk-
because I've dealt with people that I work with, and I asked that same question. And the guy I work with, he's, you know, we keep each other honest. He's on the left, and I guess I'm in the center or right, whatever you want to call it. And I asked him that same question. He said I wouldn't take the money, and I would go to HR and try to get a lawsuit. And I was trying to understand in my mind that for me, I don't care what somebody thinks about the color of my skin, the thing I comb my hair, I got a bald head, doesn't matter to me. If I work my butt off and they recognize that and they're willing to reward me for my hard work, then I'm more probable to accept that and likely to accept that just because they recognize the hard work. I don't need you to like me as a person. I don't need you to like me because of my skin color. But dang, I put my butt on the line. I come and give up my hours to get compensated for hard work that I do. And if you recognize that, you're willing to compensate me for that, then I've succeeded in that part.
I'm glad you said that. Well, let me just say that, and that underlines exactly your values and what you feel is important. You cannot disrespect me for no amount of money. I am a black man who understands history. I understand what people look like, what the people that in my own family lineage and in other family lineages and in other disenfranchised humans on this here landmass had to go through for me to even have the luxury of getting up and going to work today and being offered the option of a raise. For me to allow someone to disrespect me for some fucking money. And that is where when I don't know how old you are, but this is what I'm talking about. The Republicans or whatever, I don't know what you are, but a lot of these people talk about morals, values, law and order. And to me, I don't care how much money you are. You start off with saying I don't like you, I don't like the way you look. We have a fucking problem in this country because that doesn't, when you say you don't like me and you don't like the way I look, that doesn't mean that means as a black man, that means a whole bunch of other things behind that. And as a Hispanic man, as probably a Jewish man, when you hear those words, that's not just I think you're ugly, which is fine, but it's not just I don't like your personality, which is also no, that's a dog whistle, or it's telling I don't like you as your presence as a race, as a person who has autonomy. I don't like that. So yeah, we got a problem, and then furthermore, I would still have to continue to work with you, so I would have to have some type of trust, and that just because you offered me some money, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna trust you and move forward with you, and I think that's the biggest disconnect that we have in a lot of these conversations because y'all are saying that like that's valuable, and that's not valuable to accept money over anything because that's just not valuable. You have to have some type of dignity. And honestly, if you have kids and you're a progenitor of, other little bodies, you will want to take a stance because that doesn't move the needle for them. You took the money and now they're gonna go through the same shit you went through, and they may not get offered money. They may get killed all because you were you were only thinking about money. So I think different.
No, it's respectful. I respect your opinion, your thoughts 100%. Yeah, the way I see it is that if I was given that extra money, even though somebody didn't like me because of skin color, my ugly face, whatever, I know that what I can do with that money in my side of my life and with my family and with people around me and people that are hurting, I can help them a lot more. And then to me, that's where my heart's at. Sure, take me, beat me, work me down, talk me down, but if you're gonna pay me to where I can help the ones around that really need it, then that's what I'm willing to do. Well, I mean, I'm not interrupting nobody, man. I'm trying to talk. I'm just asking a question here, so thank you. So
He calls him a man. That's Scotty. That's a man. A gay man, but that's Scotty talking. That ain't a woman. That's Scotty.
Taking their money and giving it out because some people are saying, and I'm not saying this is you, culture, but some people are saying, take the money from the billionaires, give it to other people. Now they're
That ain't a woman. That's a man.
But I'm saying I could take it from somebody else to help people. It's kind of like a weird dichotomy to me, but I get where you're coming from and I respect what you mean and what you're saying, culture.
Right, there's economic science with billionaires. A large part of how businesses of scale and corporations operate really differently than household finance or small business. Is when you have billions and billions, there's barriers to entry, there's economies of scale, there's all these really important important economic phenomena that have been documented for more than 50 years. Of course, we don't steal from
Just
billionaires.
keep borrowing. Just keep spending. And just keep taxing.
Their wealth isn't in salary. Their wealth isn't in cash. They keep their wealth in strange ways. So Kamala's...
You saying it wrong, dog. It's pronounced wealth.
Class economist. He was an economist at Stanford. And she's had some of the best economic policies out of any politician in U.S. history. She was just talking about when you're a billionaire, you got to pay your fair share of taxes. Because I think it was Warren Buffett that said, when I pay less tax than my secretary, there's something seriously wrong with this policy. And it's important to look at economics as a science. Because when you're a billionaire, you have economies of scale, you have barriers to entry, you have access to global markets. And small businesses and individuals and highly salaried individuals just don't have that. So we have to make things fair.
Ryan, can I respond? Okay, and then I'll go on mute. But the example you gave, where the boss comes to you and says, "Listen, I might hate everything about you, but I cannot deny how hard you're working, and so here's $100,000, right? That's not really how the economy or how capitalism works. If people got money based on how hard they work or how much value they added, we would not have all of the extreme... I mean, who was working harder than the slave? Who added more to the America could never have been the economic superpower that it was early in its life as a country without all of that free, very, very hard-working labor that they made money off. Let alone, I mean, today...
There's no such thing as free, stupid. You still gotta feed, you still gotta clothe, you still gotta house, you still gotta care. Everything has an expense. It's called asset management. It's called
this is another disagreement between
expenditure of asset share.
Who is actually the person that is adding value to these corporations? From the perspective of someone
the consumer.
It's the workers. The workers are the ones bringing the value in those factors. These people could never do what they do. You couldn't make all the hot chocolate packets or whatever they do without the workers. But the right, they're saying, no. The workers are just, they're little widgets. They come and go. They're a dime a dozen. It's actually these visionaries and these, CEOs and these investors that are adding the value, right? The other thing is, if people were making money based on their hard work, why hasn't the federal minimum wage, isn't it still like $7? This is crazy. I mean, imagine, just think about that. I worked my ass off.
Think about that.
And I was given $7? This is crazy. And then what the Democrats are saying should be the federal minimum wage, or I think Bernie, for years, they've been saying $15, which is also very little. This doesn't even come up to the standard of like they haven't even increased it. I mean, from my perspective, they should have said, sure, we wanted $15 12 years ago, but now we want 25 because everything is more expensive. So even the basic concept of you should be paid a living wage, the amount of money you make should be equivalent to what it takes to buy some food and pay your rent. That is controversial. So this is the whole idea of, because the unregulated capitalism, what you'll hear all the time in these corporations, you've got to do more with less. We've all just got to do more with less. Are the CEOs doing more with less? When have they ever? They are doing less with more. So the idea is that the system, if you let it play out on its own, and if you're a Christian, then you should believe in the fallen nature of man, that we are inherently, since the fall, we are greedy, we are wicked. We need the awesome power of the Holy Spirit to come into us and help us to do the right thing and to see the light. So therefore, if that's what we believe about people, we know that people are greedy. We know that people are going to play unfair. We know that people don't have the care, by and large, that they should for their fellow man. And the system that we have, if anything, has rewarded this and pushed it even further and further. So that's why we needed some basic laws and regulations, not even whatever the people on the left, the Democrats, whatever, are advocating. It's not going to result in people being rich, but maybe it could result in people being able to eke out a meager existence, some sort of dignified life. And I just don't see how anyone could be against that on the basis that, no, that's bullshit because this billionaire needs to buy his 12th yacht. Like, it's ridiculous.
All right, I think Spear.
Ridiculous!
So, he kind of moved the mic around a little bit so some new people could talk too.
I mean, the conversation has shifted, but it's remarkable listening to people with so little integrity that they're okay to be shit on to make a few dollars. Meanwhile, you are impacting everybody ahead of you to create and perpetuate a system where the next people are continued to be shit on over and over again because you lack integrity. It's remarkable to me how low we have sunk.
Projection alert number 2 of the day.
TC, do you have something that you'd like to? Okay. Well,
That's a first.
yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of confused. Just you're saying you agree with Malak, but she's not saying anything that aligns with what you're saying. So, is your mind being changed, or what's going on?
No, so okay. Just before I speak, just understand that everything I've said, you haven't understood anything I've said yet so far. So
Have I not understood, or have I just disagreed?
both, because you didn't ask any questions for clarification. And I noticed that.
But
You
I
wasn't listening to understand.
I would only so, bro. We don't have to do like some classes. Listen. So let me explain something to you. You asked
Take him to school, brother.
You need
Teach him the truth.
If I didn't need clarification, there was no need for me to ask for clarifying questions. Furthermore, you can't. You're qualifying that as me not listening to understand, bro. You're just using words that you've heard. You have to make them make sense. Just because a person hears you and understands the first time doesn't mean that they weren't listening. Like, so go ahead. I understood what you said. I just disagreed.
So, I don't know if it was you or I didn't have my phone in my hand, but somebody had said something like, how can I be wanting America to fall, but at the same time I'm talking about building my community? And how does that correlate? How can I think both of those things at the same time, right? Was that you that asked that?
I'm sure. I mean, that sounds like something me or whoever else. But my question to you was what I just asked.
What did he
had
ask?
a very different opinion than Malek gave a submission, and you said she's cooking, which I agree with, but it doesn't align with anything that you said before. So
Because I'm not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm done.
I'm not tired. I'm very, very open-minded to different perspectives and different ideas and different ways of thinking. I don't think one. So, like a lot of things can exist and be true all at the time. That's just how I think. I think in layers. Like everything is multi-layered. Nothing is just one-sided. So I think when we do like that, like even when I initially agree with something or disagree with something, I don't just stick to okay, I disagree. And the reason I might disagree because I'm disagreeing with something that may be true, it may not be true, but the fact that it don't align with the way I think, I'm not just going to just disagree and leave it at that. If I disagree, I'm going to ask questions to like really try to understand what the hell this person is saying because I'm so in such disagreement. I'm like, okay, where did you get this from? Why are you thinking this? How do you think this helps? Like, I will ask further questions to gain clarification whether I agree or disagree.
Or I could have heard this before, and you think your opinion is on the block, but it's a generated opinion that I've heard a million times. I was able to identify it, and I didn't need to ask any further questions because I already know. I mean, you just don't have enough information, and that's, with all respect, you don't have enough information, and so I implore you to just look at, history, because one thing you can learn about history is that it usually repeats itself. So you can take the things from history and you can, usually apply them, and scale.
Well, maybe you should study more than just history, like philosophy. It's just an idea.
Have a very narrow.
Because history ain't philosophy. And philosophy ain't even history. It's called intelligence.
But what you have to do is go further back, look further back in history. So you made a lot of definitive statements about your generation compared to mine. And, upon listening, you don't really seem to be informed about my generation or what's going on in the crack epidemic or so I would just implore you to look at those things and then do your comparative analysis and see if you come up with the same answers that you have now.
Yeah, actually, I've been. It's weird. I've actually been into some stuff. I've been doing my research. And I know about the Reagan administration. I know about a lot of stuff. I've been doing deep dives like 12. And when I was incarcerated, I was privileged to come across a lot of books that a lot of people in the free world still to this day aren't aware of. Such as books like Behold a Pale Horse. Have you read that book?
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you this. All right, since you say history repeats itself, do you remember how Black people was freed from bondage and slavery? Do you remember what took place in order for that to happen?
Yeah, and I just want you to know, Pale Horse, that's not like exclusive.
It's not an end all be all,
but it's also a very. I mean, it's not a book that I would reference. I'll just say that.
Let me ask you a question real quick. What, if you don't mind sharing, what industry are you in? You're a business owner?
No, I have been. I failed. I failed a lot in life.
But that's okay. But what are you doing right now for yourself?
Right now, I'm a truck driver.
Is it your own rig or are you working for a truck driver?
I'm working for a company.
What's going on?
Well, I didn't know they were. Go ahead.
It's all good. But yeah, so the question is, okay, so tell us how we, as Black people, got free from bondage. What took place?
What do you mean, like how slavery ended?
Yeah, like they made the
violence in the South?
Before that.
We'll do better if, why don't you just tell
The
me?
man is a professor of history.
I don't know enough, so I thought you would have these stuff.
Well, I don't know where you're going with this. So once maybe I find out the line of questioning, that I can probably answer better.
Okay, so when I look back in history, and I came across the Gullah Wars for the Gullah Geechee people, and they went from plantation to plantation, killed a lot of white people. I'm not saying I'm not advocating. I'm not advocating.
Let them finish up there, Chief.
We went plantation. Look up the Gullah Geechee Wars.
I don't have to. I am that, sir.
She is the motherfucking Gullah Geechee bitch. Don't need to explain myself.
White people, right?
I do not.
So you should, I'll go back and look into it some more. I know that you said you are Gullah Geechee. The lady who raised me, she's from Boswell, Georgia. She's Geechee.
Because the Gullah Geechee Wars were a 100-year conflict starting in the 18th century.
Yes, ma'am.
You just told me that they were having a back and forth. Now you would have a back and forth. You're gonna interrupt.
Be quiet.
Justice.
Be quiet.
You literally just chastised me for interrupting.
Quiet.
Ain't shit, do it again. Same thing.
Go ahead.
It's good. So basically, when I look at stuff like that, right, and all that bloodshed, just for us to be fucking not even still treated as humans, just for us to be free from slavery, all that blood had to be shed, and it caused a panic across the whole nation. They like, fuck, if they keep this up, they're gonna kill all of us. They couldn't stop us. They could not stop them. They couldn't. So they had to free us. Because that's what we were fighting for, to be free. So what I'm saying is, fast forward time, when has anything like that ever happened again in America?
You mean just black people? Like, what do you mean, like physically, or do you mean as in just resistance?
Both.
I mean, many
They
times.
go hand in hand. I'm talking on that scale, to where it's so much chaos going on that laws had to be moved.
Have you ever heard of the Black Panthers?
You know what happened to them?
But you wait, hold on, don't.
Yeah,
hold on. Let me just give you a little piece of it. Don't move what you're doing. Hold on, you're moving the goalpost. You asked me that I have an example of a group, forming some type of resistance and then making a law as a retort or whatever. And what is the word I'm looking for? Well, they made laws because of it. And so I gave you the Black Panthers. So now what? Don't ask me. So what happened to the Black Panthers? Because that's not the point that you were making. So
Referendum was the word you were looking for.
That's cool too.
All right, so let me just try to bring my point home. The reason I asked that question is because you chimed in and said something, and I was in the conversation about to go somewhere else. I know that's not where I was getting. That is what you chimed in. Okay, so what I'm saying is with the whole Trump thing, right? Fast forward time, he said history repeats itself. If we don't understand history, we're not gonna know what the fuck we hate. We're not gonna know what to expect. We have been doing what the fuck the government wanted us to do. We've been playing into their game for this long, and look how far it's got us, and look at the shit that we still talking about still to this day. We still have an issue with our government. Why?
Well, I know some other people probably don't want to chime in, but before everybody does, I just want to say this. I think that you have respect for the past. So I would say this, and I think you're cool, so I'm not gonna I think that you just don't know a lot of stuff or you don't realize, but I think it's rude and is very presumptive to say, oh, how far has it gotten us? Because my reply to that is very far. Do you know how we came here? Do you know what we came from? And sitting here as a black man, able to express your opinion, and as a black man, I'm able to debate with you without being killed, murdered, or whatever. And that's not eliminated. I don't want to downplay what is currently going on. But I think it's disrespectful to our ancestors who did these things to say to slight it like that, like to talk about it in that way. And that's why I would like for you to just think about what you say before you say it, because they moved a lot of needles. I just need you to understand.
I do understand, and I'm very appreciative of the people who came before us and died. They died in order for us to do this, right? They died. The people risked their lives in order for us to do this. Remember, like Freedom School, it was even white people that died for this type of freedom and liberty. So what I'm saying is something has to happen in order for a change on that scale. Like you said, history repeats itself, right? And the things that our people fought for, are you aware that right now, as we speak, a lot of those things that they died for are being undone? So are you aware that our freedom of speech is in jeopardy right now? As we speak. If you know that, right?
So just this, I think this is the issue, like the difficulty, right? It's like, yeah, you have these historical moments, but your connection between them needs to be clear, because you're jumping significant historical time. You started with the civil rights movement, then you went to slavery, then you went to the Gullah Wars, which were the 18th century and ended like before the Civil War. Like the historical timeline needs to be a little more cogent. I get your point though, and I think what culturally was trying to emphasize is that yes, history repeats itself, but that doesn't mean that it's always the same, right? You may have the same event. For example, if we are struggling now with this issue of free speech suppression, there have been other monumental times in American history, like the Red Scare, the McCarthy era, where people were penalized for their speech. People lost their jobs. Companies went bankrupt, right? Because the government was on a quest to root out communism. And so everything someone said or did, or meeting they went to, a friend they had who may have slightly smelled like a communist, people were punished for that, right? So now the issue isn't communism, it's something else. Now the economic conditions are different, but people are still losing their jobs. So it is the sentiment or the policy return or the practice return. It's not always a literal one-to-one. So yes, we have progressed significantly over time, but because we are living in a democracy, we will return and revisit certain circumstances or situations as the population grows, as economic conditions change, as culture change. We have to revisit these things for the new people. But the fight or the commitment to the idea, to the ideal, or to the principle can't change. If you are for, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you have to be for that all the time. How you fight for it, it's gonna look different, but that's still the same principle. So hopefully that makes sense.
Just, I think the reason why I wanted to understand who you were first before I gave an opinion about how you were exploring your ideas is because I wanted to understand the type of person you were and what your worldview is. I think anybody that would lecture you that you're not doing it right, that you're seeking for information, it's not the right way to do it, that there are gaps in your logic and reasoning, is somebody that would indoctrinate you into their belief system. I think you're approaching.
You're annoying. isn't indoctrinating anyone. That is a process of scientific reasoning that is not telling people what to think. You're an imbecile. You're an imbecile. You're an imbecile.
Asking just
You're
questions,
an
and it's a
imbecile,
very
sir.
respectful back and forth, and it's the way you should engage in the exploration of your ideas and understanding the frontier of what you're studying.
It's not a frontier. It's a landscape, sir.
And you have to be prepared to defend your position, but at the same time have an open mind to accept opinions. I think you've done that exceptionally well with Just. I would just like to ask you a question. I noticed that you kind of hinged a lot of your questions that you had with Just based on the Black community and our fight for freedom and our fight against oppression and that type of thing. Talked about the Ichigalo Wars and that type of thing. I'm curious, where do you think you find yourself at what time in the liberation struggle for Black Americans? Where do you think you find yourself? Do you think you find yourself on the frontier of that this is a new front to Black liberation, or do you find yourself, at the end of the fight, having won it and starting to step over into the promised land?
Is that question for me?
That's for you.
I see where I'm at right now. I see myself. I think it's stagnant. I think we are still, despite the changes that have been made. I think a lot of the changes that have been made were to pacify us. I think we have been very pacified and we've got very comfortable. But I think a lot of the same issues that we've been had, we're still having. Like,
And what do you think the reason is for that?
Because we are living on land that's being controlled by people who don't want to see us progress. They don't care for that. That's not their interest.
And how do you see yourself gaining your sovereignty and your self-determination from the stolen land that the people that occupy this land lives on with you?
Me personally?
Yes.
Me personally, in my own personal life, I'm just gonna, like I was saying earlier, with like focusing on the younger people under me. I want to focus on building my community up, and like that's all I can do is what I can do. Now, as for like a whole, as everybody who lives here, white, black, yellow, green, all of us as a whole need to stand up and actually do something. We're not doing anything. We like voting and all that shit. It's not doing it. It's not. Because if it was doing it, it would have been done.
I would challenge you, and then I'll give it back to the stage. I would challenge you to consider the voting habits of your people and whether that served your people well or not, right? Because I would argue that we have to critically analyze what are the beneficial outcomes of the decisions that we've been making over the last 30, 40, 50 years. I'm inclined to agree with you that we are at a bit of a over the last 2 weeks, but it's just an apt word, a phrase to use right now. I do believe we're at a turning point culturally within Black America. We're realizing that our schools are no good. We're realizing that our people are too far dependent on the government for their sustenance, their well-being, their food and shelter. They're realizing that the political interests of the elite are not serving them well. They're realizing that their political alignment has been sabotaged by an agenda that takes advantage of them. I do believe we're at a turning point. What I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you to continue to explore ideas, but look at it from the lens, and this is not me telling you how to do it, I would just encourage you to do it. Lens of self-determination. What is your value system, right? What is your community's value system? Does your community value self-determination? Does your community value, well then you should change that, right? You should be exactly. So I think you should definitely explore what that looks like. Because self-determination for us for far too long has not been a value system that we've held, at least not for the last 40 or 50 years. But now we're having a renaissance. This time period, this cultural time period that we're living in is revealing the true intentions of the entrepreneurs that's been exploiting our community. On the left and the right. Right? I would like the board gets the left all the time, but I can be open-minded enough to know that both the left and the right has taken at Black Americans for far too long. You can look at corporations as advantage, the redlining and shit like that. These are things that's been promoted on the right, but at the same time, it's also been promoted on the left with the crime bill and with the military, the prison industrial complex.
Same side, the left on Twitter.
So what I want to do, it is, but at the same time,
And TC, you got 30 seconds, my dude.
I'm 6 minutes into a meeting that my team is on. So
all right, well, you're about to be 30 seconds.
I don't get a lot of applause.
Now you got 20 more.
Because I encourage people to think against the groupthink. Groupthink wants herd mentality. That's where survival is. That's where instincts are. But far too often, when you follow the herd, you can follow the herd off the cliff. So I want to challenge provocative thought, and I think that's exactly the path that you're down. I would encourage you to continue to use the Socratic method to explore your ideas and your worldview. Because I think
You Socratic method. How would you just read Socrates, motherfucker? You can just read Socrates. You ain't even got to use the Socratic method. You can just read motherfucking Socrates.
So now, I'll let you hear that, and we tried to go as uninterrupted because I do want you to be able to hear both sides. So as you go through life, there will be silly Negroes that come and do this very thing that TC just did. They will try to feed you a bootstraps mentality and a self-determination mentality. This is not true. Do not fall for that.
Self-determination is not true.
TC, please let me finish. I'll let you finish. So, this comes from a place of hating yourself and wanting to get your good nigger sticker from a white man and wanting to point things out about your own community, and which is great. I do believe in being critical of oneself, but don't ever be the black man that allows other people or another group of people to make you think that somehow your group is lazy or less determined or any of these things. The true reasons why black people are in the spaces they are in. But when you look at the rate of how almost anything happens, especially anything negative, they happen at the same rate because people are people, black, white, green, or blue. And that's different from what TC said is focus on trying to better the resources, the economic situations, anything that you can do to further your community, and I mean black community, that's what you should focus on. Not finger wagging, not going around telling people that they're, they said that's not changing anything. We've had black people do that for centuries, and it hasn't done anything. So I'll let you hear TC side, but I would advise you as a person who's older than TC and a little bit more wise and graduated from a better school to not listen to him. Thank you.
I can respect that. I can respect that.
Just, I had a question for you. So, you're saying, I'm gonna say what I got and you let me know if it's right. Basically, like, this shit isn't working and it all needs to crumble and Trump's gonna make it crumble and ultimately that's a good thing. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Like, let's say, okay, you've convinced all of us in this room and beyond. We see it. We're down. What do we do next? Go ahead.
We put people in position who actually care about people.
So you're saying we elect better people?
We put humans in office, yes. We put humans with that has feelings and understands other people's feelings and cares about other people's feelings and their livelihoods.
Okay. So this is where I'm confused. because the system of the idea that we're going to elect good people and actual humans who care about other people, that's a system, democracy, elections, but you're saying that's not done anything for us, fuck all of that. So then if that all crumbles, how do we elect those people? Are you saying like, we'll just create our own version of democracy after this democracy falls, or how does it work?
I think it works. In a way, it worked. Then I can't even think of the year. I'm thinking about an exact year. But the times where we used to trade, everything was based on trades. I think we go back to those simple times, or we keep shit simple. Like we've overcomplicated everything. Now we arguing over how much America is in debt and how much minimum wage is, and all. It's a bunch of nonsense. If everybody just be humans and work together, we can all have everything we want. But nobody will be poor, nobody will be homeless. Yes, we can live. We can definitely live in abundance if we just stop playing their game. That's all we got to do is just stop fucking playing. That's why I said stop paying bills. I know it sounds crazy,
Right, what is it?
but shit we talking about is fucking crazy. What do you mean $15 an hour? Like what? Like all of this shit is fucking crazy. It just is.
You're very what's idealistic, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. But cause I was just, but you just gotta manage expectations, bro. Like, the world that you think is available in reality, it's kind of just not. And you gotta work within the parameters that you're given at whatever specific time. Like, like black people just stop playing the game. It's really not that simple. That's like pretty much that we out of here if we stop playing the game. We have to play the game. So
White people are really fucking as well. We're all.
I'm not saying that they aren't, but the way that black people are affected is always going to be different from any other group. So even when even if you just put it poor people or however you want to classify it, we live in a closed system, right? So it's not, you have to dismantle it or do whatever you plan on doing from the inside. Just saying these statements and just thinking like people were like, yeah, we're gonna work. I get it, I understand it, I want to be like that too, but life lets you know that things work different. It's just not that simple. But I don't fault you for having, for thinking the way that you think though.
I want to challenge your stance for a minute. Walk me down the ripple effect if every American, every honest living American who pays taxes, walk me down the ripple effect if everybody stops paying the bills, stop paying car notes, stop shopping at the grocery stores and start growing their own food. What's the ripple effect?
You said growing their own food?
Yes.
So, because you went out, I don't know if it was my phone or yours, you said stop. You said stopped or started. I couldn't hear.
If instead of shopping in grocery stores, we growing our own food. Instead of taking our kids to school, we building our own curriculums, things like that. Well, like say if we just stop playing our game, like what's the ripple effect of us stop paying our bills, stop shopping in grocery stores, stop paying.
Okay, so let's take it one at a time. Stop shopping at grocery stores. Non-starter. Most of us live in urban environments. We don't have any land. We don't have the capacity to grow the food that it would need to take to sustain us. So that's like, that's out before it even starts.
Okay, you say that, however, everybody is still buying food, right? So there is spaces to grow the food.
But you have to own that space. You have to have access to that space. We do not as civilians.
We have people in position that's doing that right now. But I'm saying, okay, look.
So hold on. So you think they're just going to give up their access, their land for us to grow our own little corner of food?
yes, if we fight for it. Because right, like he said, right now we don't have land to do this. Like God made land for us to grow food everywhere. Like we have earth with land everywhere. We don't own nothing. That's what I'm saying. We have to get out that mindset of thinking that, oh, that's what that's
people have deeds and paperwork to this stuff.
Exactly.
And courts and, you know, a system.
Exactly.
That
all that shit has to be undone. All that shit needs to be undone. Because they don't own this shit to sell it to anybody anyway. This is God's land.
You know.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, what are we? Because this is real, like, this isn't, do you think you can make this case in a court of law and it be successful? Like, no. This is God's land.
No.
All right, so then,
that's why
so
be implemented.
But what I'm saying is, what's smarter to do with your job? Think about something that has, like, little to no chance of flying, or in the meantime, figuring out something that could penetrate or could, you know, do something. So that's what I'm saying. I like these, like, expansive ideas. They sound beautiful, lovely, but they're not gonna happen, bro. They're not. So
it's not. It's really not gonna happen as long as we still believe in the American dream. If we're still asleep thinking like, okay, I need to do this and so I can do that and pay these bills so I can wherever the fuck or put this into savings so I can afford my daughter's school. Like we still think we're still on the fucking hamster wheel. As long as
let's just say you get 50 million people to agree with you, and we all say, fuck, we ain't paying our electric bill this month. What do you think changes?
So
other than 50 million people just don't eat or take showers and stuff.
Lights out.
It's not gonna, like, those people are still going to, like, there's no real, like.
Okay, so look, let's say 50 million people stop, right? So let's say
water, and here, water is another guy that you don't meet along your way. He's the guy that's not black, that don't know about your struggle, but is gonna try to set your ass up to do stupid shit that he wouldn't do himself. So you gotta watch out for the waters and the TCs. But go ahead, bro.
That's a fucking lie.
That's true.
Can I ask, are you water or it's directed at Just? Are you familiar with Move from Philadelphia? MOVE, 1970s Move. You know about that, Just?
What about Move?
say that one more time.
Move.
It's a group. What about the group?
So, Dr. A.G., will you allow me to explain what it is in case he doesn't know, or would you prefer I not?
That's my question. What about the group?
Okay, so the group they're a black liberation group. They promoted back to nature, anti-government, a lot of the same values that you're describing. They were known for living communally. They rejected mainstream culture. They were challenging the city authorities, especially the Philadelphia Police Department. They were, non-traditional. It's the vision you're describing, basically. And in 1978, after years of complaints from their neighbors about the noise or their confrontational behavior, basically anti-blackness, if you ask me, the police tried to evict them from their homes. So this standoff occurred in August 1978, and in the course of that stand-up, a police officer was killed, and a lot of others were injured in a shootout. So they arrested a lot of them, and 9 of them were convicted of third-degree murder, sentenced from everything from 30 to 100 years in prison. Now, after that, they continued to be a movement, and in 1985, people were complaining again, and city officials, including the first black mayor of Philadelphia, authorized a massive police operation against them. right? So it was like almost 500 police officers, armored vehicles, tear gas, the whole thing out. They still refused to surrender, the MOVE members. So the police literally bombed the house that they were living in from a Pennsylvania State Police helicopter. It caused a massive fire. The firefighters who normally fight fires, they were told, let it burn, just let it burn. 11 people died, including 5 children. 61 homes were destroyed in the area. It left over 250 people homeless. This is the first time in U.S. history that this kind of military-style bombing against, the country's own citizens has been allowed. And since then, no one was held, no city official, no police officer was criminally charged. There were civil lawsuits and things, but no one was really, held accountable for doing all of that damage. So I bring that up just to say that if we don't, this vision that you have that I don't necessarily agree with, honestly, a lot of it sounds pretty good. But if we don't think it all the way through, because you're saying what we need for this to happen is for everyone to participate. You're never going to get everyone to participate, right? We can't get everyone to do anything. So as long as there's a few people who don't want to participate, and they're given the guns and the helicopters and the bombs, right, shit can turn out very badly and very dangerously. So in your vision, it's not that the vision is bad, but it takes it thinking it all the way through to the end. I'll end.
Okay. So with the I don't even know where to pick up from because you touched on a lot of different points.
Yeah, Jess's vision is a lot more benign, I should say, than what the MOVE activists were doing. I mean, nothing legitimizes the response, but it wasn't as benign is what Jess is talking about. But I just want to say, I know I was hoping there's only one. I was hoping culturally would come off his mic, but how did this get started? What was the original question? What was going on?
I think I shook the room when I stated that I like Trump.
You didn't shake it, babe. You didn't shake the room.
That's exactly how it started.
Yeah.
That was at 7:30 in the morning.
But he did this.
Oh, stupid.
No, it's not that you're stupid. I don't think you're stupid, bro. But I think that I think what you're doing is stupid. I don't think you're stupid though.
I'm talking about something that hasn't been done yet.
You're
That's
not,
the reason
though.
why.
No, it's not. And I'm glad you're here, Dr. AG, so because you're probably gonna repeat a lot of this. Just so you know, I wasn't being funny with you. The thing that you think is so innovative, it's just
I'm
not.
not saying it's innovative. This one, I'm talking about on a scale to where we actually see.
Well, let me just tell her what happened.
So hold on, Jess. That's what I mean. This is the thing, right? I think it's great to say I have this wonderful idea and I want to do this thing, but for you to say it's never been done before, it's sort of it betrays a certain level of uninformedness, because what you are describing is it's not a thing that has never happened before, that people have not tried before. So if you're gonna talk, then I can't talk. So I'm gonna go on mute and then you can finish and then I'll finish.
I'm sorry, I'm muted.
Oh, that's okay. Because if we look throughout, we don't even have to go throughout American history. If we just go back, we can go back 100 years, right? And we can look at communities that have established this living arrangement that you described. Now, Malik's invocation of the MOVE thing is a good example, but MOVE was doing a whole lot of other stuff. Like they were also a political organization. Their form of life was a political act. So that's a different kind of communal living. In the 60s and the 70s, you had all kind of communes where people were collectively living. So that's not new, right? And even if we take it to the level of developing insular economic systems within these communal living type situations, that is not historically new. Now, you may be adding something to it, but the concept is not historically new. And so to say that it's something that hasn't been done before is to suggest that your research on this thing as a project and a possibility is limited. And now, having said that, my final comment is that should not be taken as an insult. That should be, I would hope that you would see it as an invitation to look into it more, right? To read more. And like you mentioned, book Beyond, Behold the Pale Horse. Okay, that's a great book, but there are nonfiction books that you can read as well that can expand sort of your understanding of these things. I always bring up this book. I think it's one of the Kennedys because it's an amazing book that's called Big the History of the Word. I recommend that you read that because it's about that word, but there's also psychological and sociological analysis of sort of white people's relationship to this country over time. That is an amazing read for someone who is interested in the things that you're interested in. So that's my final comment. You can go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you. They're gonna have a White House press briefing soon, so y'all go ahead and keep talking, but I'm about to say that.
Awesome.
The one, yep, the autism.
Alright, so what I'm saying is, I'm saying something that's never been thought about, or I'm not saying I'm innovating something, a brand new idea. What I'm saying is, okay, as many people that are participating in the game today have never opted out all at once. As many people that are paying bills and going to work and working for wages that are just unlivable wages, as many people that are doing this today, that many people have never opted out the game since the game started. Show me a history where that's happened.
I don't understand the question. Say it one more time.
I'm saying,
Is this a
as many
movement?
people,
Are you alone in this?
Well, please.
this is what I'm saying. Look, first let me clear this up. This is just what I see as
No. Don't go back. Just
Okay,
ask the question.
so what I'm saying is, okay, as many people that are participating in this American dream, chasing this American dream, trying to live whatever life people want for themselves, which is
Whatever they
and
define
you should, as you should, respectfully. Now, as many people who are participating in this American dream are participating in the race towards the American dream, show me in history where that many millions of people have opted out the game all at once.
Well, nobody can show you that because by virtue.
That's what I'm saying.
Hold on. This is where it becomes a little illogical because by virtue of being in America, right, remaining active in the American project, we commit to certain things. And one of those commitments is to the fundamental sort of principles of America, which is the pursuit of freedom, economic freedom, physical freedom, right? So you can't be a part of the American project and opt out of the American project at the same time. So that doesn't
That's
make
why I'm
sense.
saying we need to opt
continue to exist in America. That is a recipe for disaster.
America was thriving.
I think he
I
might
want
be.
you to stop talking. I want you to stop talking. You just got on the stage. You're not. No, absolutely not, sir. You just got on the stage. You need to listen before you start talking.
That's all I'm hearing y'all talk.
I'm not doing that. Jess, what was your comment, sir? I'm sorry.
I agree. Doc, at a certain point, you have got to realize, like, conversation it's not, it doesn't actually, he's not budging. He's not really trying to learn this from you. He's made up his mind. He finds this conversation entertaining. Like, you talk, like,
Stop, bro. Because you insinuate a lot of stuff.
Patty, do you have that video you're gonna play? Thank you. Can we get that video? Thank you. Can we get that video? Thank you. We've been hearing this for 3 hours. Whoever got here at the 3-hour mark or the 2-hour mark, we've been listening to this for 3 hours. How see that is that I want to hear fucking Trump over this bullshit. You're not getting to him. Take him into a private.
Okay, so I wasn't trying to get to him.
You shut up and let her run it through. You shut up. We gotta do our
You're not gonna tell her to shut up.
One
You're not gonna do,
fucking thing. And that is, whoever you are, shut up. This is insane. Y'all men need to really get control. I don't know if it's the Axe body spray or, I don't know, that T-Kirk shit that them football players be selling on the TV. I don't know what it is, but y'all's brain, something is really wrong with it. The fragmentation in your brain really needs to be looked at. This is absurd, the way y'all just scream. It's just so disrespectful. Oh, it's disgusting.
Good morning, y'all.
Go on mute, ma'am.
Gotta defrag them brains.
Yeah, it's when
It doesn't start until 1 o'clock, but I guess we can talk about the. Oh man. Damn Trump, you fucked up again. Yeah, they're talking about a bunch of clips or whatever. But let me go ahead and play this MSNBC clip real quick, and it's talking about there is no link in the doctor reviewing Trump's claims. Supposedly they found the connection, is what he claimed yesterday. He said they're gonna come out with some great news, supposedly some connection to autism and why you have so many autistic children.
They're gonna say it's Tylenol.
Yeah, how it sounds.
Yeah, Tylenol. We all know they're gonna say Tylenol because
Tylenol! Take your Tylenol!
And somebody made the point that they're like, you know, they just want women to suffer because Tylenol is the only like pain medicine that women can use when they're pregnant.
Dr. AG, someone wanted you to drop the book that you referenced and the author in the chat if possible.
Oh, okay, I read that.
Okay.
Welcome back. This morning, growing alarm in the medical community ahead of an expected White House announcement on autism.
I think we found an answer to autism. We're gonna be talking.
The medical industrial complex is very concerned about what Donald Trump is saying. Tylenol!
Now, according to 4 people,
It ain't a vaccine! Don't say the word vaccine!
the White House
Tylenol!
is linking pregnant women taking acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol, to an increased risk of autism in children. Current FDA guidelines say acetaminophen is safe.
Tylenol healthy for you!
And that's backed up by decades of research.
Tylenol!
Tylenol's parent company.
Everybody go find more Tylenol!
The drug, quote, women face dangerous choices, suffer through conditions like fever that are potentially harmful to both mom and baby, or use riskier alternatives. Let's bring in Dr. Vinay, pulmonologist and MSNBC medical contributor. Doctor, we've all been told Tylenol is the safe pain reliever to take when you're pregnant, and any possible link between autism has been thoroughly studied before, right? What do we know?
Good morning. What we know is that there's been years of research prior to recently that's shown a correlation but not causation of Tylenol maybe a very small increased risk of baby developing autism. Very small. And those are poor
Small.
quality studies, poorly designed.
Very small.
Also known as that science change.
But how small, doctor?
Just 2 years ago, one of the largest, best quality research studies ever done of 25 years in Sweden looked at siblings, one exposed in utero, the other not, to Tylenol. And what did that find on
Tylenol!
genetics, family history, maternal paternal age, known risk factors for autism, that there was no link. So the best quality research has shown no link between the use of Tylenol in utero or during pregnancy and the development of autism.
President Trump actually stated this weekend that today's announcement could be wrong. Take a listen.
I don't want to wait any longer. We don't need anything more. And if it's wrong, it's not going to be wrong. But if it is wrong, it's fine. We have to do it. Because we're going to have an announcement on autism.
Yeah. Dr. Gupta, your reaction. What are the implications if they make this link?
Well, it's going to be one of the similar line of things. You and I have talked about this endlessly of using a similar approach. They don't know. They put something out there and it's cherry picking data. I worry about women across the country aren't equal. You said this in the TF. There aren't many for oral pain release if you have to take medication. And I say this watching my wife go through 2 pregnancies and needing.
So basically, wherever these things are, not only at the moment of our birth, but in different times, there's what are called transits. And
I can get to the point because you're gonna fucking roll your mouth over because you're fucking long and because you're too stupid right now. So again, you overextended on your skis and now you're about to tip the fuck over. The reason we do forward deployed bases, why we have a multitude of bases around the world and we have various satellite ones, is because that is the key to our fucking strength, you fucking moron. It's the way we can win wars. Because we realize that, hey, we have 2 ginormous fucking ponds on either side of us, and our only allies, truly allies, are literally Canada and Mexico because they have the shared interest of land invasion with us. That's it. And oh, by the way, Mexico, last time I checked, unless there's going to be a taco truck with M60s on top of it, I don't really fucking know. What do they got? The burrito miso? Is that going to fucking do it? Are they going to send chalupas over and hope everybody gets satiated on fence? I'm sorry. In Canada, yeah, they have the military, but it's a lackluster one because they've drawn down over the decades. They've reduced their numbers and their spending. They stopped shipbuilding. They've stopped exploration. They've stopped development, and they rely solely on South Korea. They rely on the United States. And guess who else they rely on for weapons development? Oh, that's right. Everybody's favorite bingo card, Israel. So now, with that being said, when we look at where we're at with strategic allies and intervention, in order for our empire, the American empire, to reign, it has to have these areas where we can deploy wheels up, tits up, cock locked, and ready to rock within 6 hours. You cannot do that from our nation across the pond. So this is why it's very important. And when the U.S. sets up a Bagram base, which is very much a eye-opening thing, Trump may have just said it just to get China's attention. He may have actually had intent. Maybe the Taliban is in talks to say, hey, we'd like to have Bagram. All right, over to you guys. We'd like to have you guys here providing aid and doing non-conflict intervention roles with us. Maybe they want that kind of thing. You don't know because I'm pretty sure your fucking wannabe ass isn't in those fucking discussions. Nor is mine, nor is anybody on the stages. So I don't know. We'll have to wait for further developments. But I do know that China posed that threat, and that was the rationale behind stating that we wanted Bagram. Now, how he goes about it, we'll have to see. But you don't know that. They didn't win the fucking war. They didn't do anything except fucking just shoot hot rifles at us and fucking cause us harm for 20 years. And I'll give you that. They did a great job. They defended their nation twice. But no one's really gone in there to conquer and rule Afghanistan. If we wanted to, we would have fucking carpet bombed them and bombed them all to hell. And we never did any of that shit. We just did strategic bombs. So, like, idea of warfare is so ridiculous. Also, we can't run drones
fucking halfway across the globe over to target.
24/7 drones.
You can't do. We can do it with other planes. We have some missiles and some array, but the vast majority are not reaching from New York City to fucking Beijing. It's just not happening. So when we look at this and say, hey, why do we need carrier groups?